change has always been a part of our lives, right? It's always been a part of our life, and any business would have gone through many changes. But then in the recent years, we've all experienced an accelerated pace of change. I'm sure you've experienced that both at Genesis as well as at Mars. So, and depending on the make of the person, like some of our employees may feel that going through change is exciting or even exhilarating, while other people in the company might feel that this is too much, it's tiring, and it's exhausting, right? So maybe we can start with you, Inko. From your experience, what does it take to get your employees to demonstrate resiliency and for them to cooperate with you and your company while you go through that change for the better?
I actually can use one word to describe it all. Of course, I will emphasize more on it. But the word that we are using within the company, and I use a lot, is, it's empathy. We have to create a workplace where your culture is really based on empathy. It's a very safe environment where everyone can be their true self, where employees feel appreciated and valued for the work and for the perspective is. So it's all about empathy. Really understand your employees on how do they really feel. What do they value? We always talk about company values, but what are your employees' values? That's what you need to know as well. What excites them? In fact, and this is very in coincidence, our CEO, Tony Bates, together with Dr. Natalie Pittelhoff, they just published a book which is titled Empathy in Action. So in here, they really target this actually. In the book, they really point out how many organizations still struggle with what we call, company-faced management theory. So this is a blind spot. You drain the employees' purpose, the passion, and the engagement. So as an organization, you need to take away this blind spot. And this actually means you need to become an organization very intentional in how you help your employees to see and to be valued in every interaction you do as a company. Anything that you do, any event, any speech, anything is always about empathy. And that is really key. That's how we, help the people to actually go through the change, leading with empathy.
Very big word, empathy. When we talk about leadership, like probably a decade ago, we are thinking more of disciplining employees, more of top-down approach. But now the keyword that you are sharing with us, Ingo, is empathy.
I wish I could be as concise as Ingo, but when I was reflecting on this one, I couldn't really find one word that embodies this. One thing that I was able to establish was that when I reflected on this one, I honestly couldn't remember the time that we asked ourselves this. As an organization, it seemed like it was so different for us. And I'm saying this with confidence and pride because I feel that it's so much a part of us already that when I reflected on it, I had to dig deep as to understanding why, what makes us so different in terms of going through the resilience of change. And three things that came to mind for me is that first, understanding why we do what we do and why we get up every day, no matter how tough it is, and show up and do the best that we can in every limited situation that we are given. So it's our purpose. And in Mars Pet Nutrition, we always say that our purpose is making a better world for pets. And putting the pets and the pet parents at the center makes us very unique across different industries and organizations because we are making a better world for pets. And that one is very strong across all the associates in our organization. And it has always been at the center of everything that we do. It's that when anything changes along the way, we just find our way through because the purpose would never change. And the second for me is, how do we do this? Because circumstances change, the landscape changes all the time, and we have to roll with the punches, and the how would always shift. And what's nice about Mars is that we do have the 5 principles that come into play, that it's not that rigid, dictating to you what you need to do exactly, that any change in the landscape shifts everything. But it's such a nice framework and principles that is embodied by every associate in Mars as an organization that it stands through the changes of time and it stands through across the different ambiguity. And this pandemic has actually made it an acid test for the new associates in the organization, and they saw how it remained true. And for us, these 5 principles are always kept alive and has always been at the center of how we decide things. And the last thing for me is the clarity on who we are. And understanding ourselves as associates gives us a sense of pride, and also having that sense of stability in terms of how do we remain true to ourselves. And with us in Mars, we are not employees. We don't call ourselves employees. We call ourselves associates. And we see and embrace the big difference across that one. And for us as associates, we are treated with mutual dignity, respect, and also responsibility. We have the responsibility to act like stakeholders in the organization. And in every day, as we make our small or big decisions, we know that it affects the entire organization, and we're empowered to make those decisions, but we are also responsible to really keep the company's welfare, the pets and the pet parents at the center. So for me, I would probably look at those three aspects because those three don't change across the circumstances. And at this time of change, time of crisis and all that, I think resilience comes from having a strong core and understanding who you are and why you do what you do and how you do things across the different changes that happen.
Thanks, John. That's very timely because just for me and my team, which is, I think it was just probably 2 weeks ago when we also had that discussion on the why and how, like it's always good to go back to these anchor points, especially right now when things keep on changing and we are going through very fast pace. We need to pause and remember, why are we doing this again? And, like, how are we going to do it? We stay focused and we just don't get carried away by all the waves of changes. So thanks for sharing that. We got empathy, the why, how, and remembering who you are. How about you, Oscar? Would love to hear, how do you rally your team to being resilient and going through with you successfully through change?
Even if we say, I love change, I'm really open to change, there is some sort of resistance that's inherent to our humanity. But I believe that trust is precisely what moves a mountain and what can change the reality. We've seen it in the past. Every time the company changes and Coca-Cola has a new way of getting to the market or a new exciting development in products, employees go ahead with it because we have built trust. They believe that we're doing the right thing, even if it's not the easiest, but they would just follow and embrace change because they have learned to trust. And this trust has been built along many years. It doesn't happen overnight. And to me, it has even become more evident throughout this pandemic, because the trust has been there in the protocols we put in place, in the way that we were taking care of our people, in all the initiatives that we established for them to be safe. So they really trusted us. And at some point we had people wanting to stay in our sites overnight. Of course, we were providing accommodation, we were providing meals, and because they felt far safer in our sites than what they would feel outside or commuting or in public transportation and everything. So I believe this trust, again, it has been built throughout the years, but right now it's very strong. And it is a testament on how people believe in us. We might not have been in this place 10 years ago or a little bit longer ago, but right now we can feel it. And even in all these natural calamities that put us to the test, it's not only the trust of the company, but the trust in each other and wanting to protect each other. So this resiliency that's very natural for the Filipino comes to a very visible and actionable reality. Once you see typhoons like Odette and everything that happened, everyone steps up and really contributes to help, not only for the company, but also for each other, because we truly believe that we are a big family.
I like that. Trust, as you know, Great Place to Work model is anchored on trust. And your organizations are Great Place to Work certified. That means that your employees say that they're experiencing high trust within your organization. Oscar has mentioned, it takes time to build trust. It's actually an investment. So what we found is that organizations who already have that high trust workplace culture before the pandemic, they were able to navigate through the situation much better than those who don't have it yet. Right? Like their employees are able to trust that their leaders have their best interest at heart. But then, many people would still feel it's fluffy, right? Like trust is a concept. It's very fluffy. How can you grasp it? From your experience, what are concrete examples of how you've gained a high trust workplace culture?
I believe that the leaders in this company, we believe that we need to walk the talk. It's not just telling people what we expect them to do or how we expect them to collaborate, but we really need to be there. And for example, when the pandemic started, CCBPI, Coca-Cola Beverages, was identified as one of the essential industries. So we kept operations in every plant, but very hard to ask your people to report today on a daily basis when you're sitting behind a desk in your office, home office, and connecting. So we really made it a point to be present and to be together with our people, with all the protocols. And yes, we continue to conduct socially distanced town halls. We continue to talk to them. But at the height of the pandemic, the leaders of this company, we were moving to Davao, we were moving to Cebu, we were moving to Misamis Oriental. We were talking to people, we were listening to them, to their needs, to their requirements. So it's really walking the talk, and this trust comes only after they see that you're taking good care of everyone else. It's not just about the net sales revenue. It's not just about the sales. It's about this culture. It's about inclusion. It's about everyone having a seat on the table. So that's how we have built it. We really go and talk to people. Our CEO, Gareth, likes to do these open conversations, and he never stays put. When the pandemic was at the peak, you would see him moving all the way around, and he likes to sit down with small groups and the masks and everything, but he takes questions. He replies in an honest way, which is not very normal, right? For the CEO to be moving and touring around the country, and all the senior leaders, we try to do the same, to talk to people, to listen to them. And of course, it's not just listening, it's action. What you're picking up in these conversations, what we're going to do to improve the way, the conditions that they have to work and what they require in order to thrive. So we have these conversations not only with the local leadership, but with the senior leadership as we go around. I think that for us is the secret, to be as close to our people as we can. It's challenging because we're a 10,000 employee company, but it's doable.
Really leadership in action, like what you said, Oscar. People seeing it, seeing their leaders right there on the ground, caring for them, putting even their lives at risk, right, during the onset of the pandemic, just to show that they put their people first. Ingo, you mentioned earlier, it's about empathy. And of course, empathy and trust, for me, it goes hand in hand. Do you have any examples that you can also share of what you've done at Genesis?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in general, what Oscar said is spot on earlier already. It is all about trust. And, till now, I am still really baffled on how many companies still do not have really a trust environment. And what I mean with this is, let's go back to the beginning stages of when you hire an employee. You hire an employee not just for the skill set, not just because they fit in, not just because of their experience. You also hire people because you trust them. So how can you then turn around as a company and say, well, we don't trust you, and we have a culture where we don't, give and take trust. People, by default, it means you trust them. So you need to create this environment. And as you said, trust and empathy. If you don't do this, if you don't give the trust to your people, it means you don't invest in your employees. I would say you can even close the doors, because the company's success is really with the employees. Now, in my example, I had an extra dilemma, because when I started at Genesis, this was in January 2021. In the midst of the pandemic, offices are closed. I haven't met anybody in person. So how can I gain the trust of all the employees in the Philippines who cannot meet me in person? They can only see me on a Zoom call, a webinar or something. So one of the very first things I did is I right away went into our own social media tools internally that we have. We have a chat program, you can use Microsoft Teams or other ones. And I opened a group chat for all the Manila employees, where everybody can just put in messages, ask questions, important updates, but also from my end, I can quickly reach out. With as simple as on Monday mornings, my message will be, hey, it's Monday morning again, rise and shine, let's make our customers happy. But these kind of things, you take away the door. That I always say my e-door is wide open. Doing this with this chat group, it's a lot of people at first were like, no, don't do this, because who knows what people put in the chat group. No, I trust the people that we have. So let's have this. And well and behold, 1 year later, it is a big success. And on top of that, what I also did is, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, instead of doing the town halls, I went away with town halls, and I send out weekly updates every single Friday. I send out an update called TGIF from the site lead. It has updates on ongoing projects. It has some fun facts in there, some things that we maybe plan to do, some items where I show how vulnerable I also be, because leaders are also vulnerable. But human being, this thing is in, hey, there is the boss. Hey, there is, if you call it this way, there's the white guy. How can we approach him? So I took away all these barriers, all these bumps in the road. I took all of them away. Very controversial when you think of it, because also what Oscar said, the CEO going around and really person to person answer the questions. That is exactly what you need to do. You lead by example. You show them that you care. You have the empathy. You show them. You make them feel that you trust them. And when you do this, automatically you get the trust back. And look, like I said, I started with meeting nobody. We did the Great Place to Work certification, not meeting anybody, but we did the right thing, because here we are talking about this. So key element, trust has to be done. And as a leader, you really have to lead by example. That is really key here.
Thanks, Ingo. One thing that we see whenever we evaluate best workplaces is that what differentiates the best from the rest, it's human touch. So a lot of leaders would have very good qualification. They would be graduating from somewhere, having those high degrees. But what really differentiates them is having that human touch. Opening, as you said, Ingo, opening that e-door. As Oscar has shared, going, to provinces, meeting up with your employees, making sure that everyone's well taken care of. That's what sets, a true, for all, we call it for all leaders from others who, don't really prioritize, unfortunately, their people. And as sad as it may be, like what you said, Ingo, is that there are still organizations right now whose priority is putting the business first. Kind of shift in mindset that when you take care of your people will look after your business. And so right now, I'm sure we've all heard this phenomenon, the waves of resignation, which is now coined as the Great Resignation. So there is a report I was just reading earlier that says that this movement happened mostly amongst experienced group of employees, mostly women and employees between 40 to 49 years old. So John, do you think that companies should be afraid of this Great Resignation?
I think the first thing that we need to recognize is that COVID, this pandemic, has really transformed a lot of things in the world. And it has really transformed how things are done, and the processes in place and organization structures in place all have been challenged like crazy. And it almost happened overnight. So what am I trying to say here? I think the reality is that all of us experience what our employees or associates are experiencing. Burnout is real. And that's our buzzword no more. It's a reality, right? That's smack at the center of things. But the way I would look at it is that I would shift the focus from thinking about losing associates or employees to looking at it as an indicator, to introspect. What can we shift? What are the things that we need to move as an organization and how we operate as a business so that we don't lose associates? How do we engage them more? How do we empower them more? How do we connect with them more is something I would put my energy on. So rather than fearing it, I would take it as an opportunity to really look into how we operate so that we are nurturing talents, we are retaining talents because they are connected to us. And one of the things that I've realized is that this entire pandemic has made a lot of people really reflect on why they work. And a lot more they gravitate towards companies that have a good purpose that they can connect with and companies that they feel are making a difference in the world. And at the same time, companies that would allow them as individuals to make a difference themselves. So for me, as companies evolve to be more able, more capable to support that particular need and want, the more fruitful a company would be. Because this pandemic has shifted so much in terms of how we work, but it has also shifted how the priorities of people are. And given that, organizations also need to recognize that and make necessary adjustments along the way.
I kind of agree with John. More than fearing it, we really put things in action, right? There are many companies that take a look at what they call regrettable turnover. For us, all turnover is regrettable. right? If someone left the company, there's something that we need to look into. So we do look into all the details of each and every employee. Of course, we have exit interviews. We try to get a hold of what happened. But most importantly, and you mentioned it rightly so, it is a well-being and how we foster that. So we have what we call a total well-being program that is not only targeted towards health, but also towards development, towards the family, towards mental health. And these became even more relevant in the past couple of years. So we try to have this holistic approach towards taking care of our people. Has it become a little bit more challenging? The answer is yes. Because before you could run these events and you could do family day and bring the families of our associates and have a nice day together with everyone. And if you wanted to talk about physical development, and we could do basketball tournaments and these big things where everyone was feeling happy, empowered. Unfortunately, we can't do that nowadays. So we have had to become more creative in the way that we reach our people. But definitely, our target is not the people who sit in our head office building. The target is absolutely each and every one of our 10,000 employees. So how do we do this in a plant in Visayas, for example? And that has become the challenge. But I'm happy to share that a lot of our people representatives at the site level have found these creative ways. And you can see a lot of different arrays of Bacolod's Got Talent and these creative ideas to keep people together and to bring everyone, because it's not easy. The toll of the pandemic is not only related to work. It has affected the way that we live, the way that we interact with our families. So people need this boost. I'm saying the boost, not the booster, this morale boost every once in a while. And I think that it is very relevant that we have found those ways to transition from the very formal ways of doing it before to these creative ideas. But to us, it is one of our key business indicators: engagement, motivation. How do we keep this total well-being program alive? So it has shifted, but to us, it's still a big priority.
I think it's very important. As a company, you need to have a very strategic focus now on what we call employee experience. Now, in the past, you always talk about customer experience. Now it's about you need to have a concrete plan for your employee experience, because like Oscar and John also said, people leave and they leave for a reason, and we need to understand why. And that is part of the experience. Where did it go wrong? Was it at the beginning? Was it in the middle? Was it towards the end? Now, during the pandemic, did we overlook something that we should have done or could have done? No, it's the experience of our employees. What are they going through? So as an organization, we moved with the changes from the pandemic, from being on premise to completely virtual. We did the same thing for our employees. Not only did we send them home, we also asked them, well, do you have a home office setup? If not, let us know. You get a desk, you get a chair, you get XYZ. Anything you need to work from home, you will get, because we need you to work from home. So we have to make sure the entire experience from beginning to the end, if there's an end, has focus. You track it, you have data available so that you can really see at which time things might go wrong. But it's all a learning experience. Like Oscar said, every person who leaves for whatever reason is regrettable that this person leaves. But there is a learning experience behind this. And till now, and this is something I'm very proud of. At Genesis, we have been, until now, our attrition rate is still single digits. And I'm planning to keep it that way, because it is a good indicator to have on how you're doing as a company towards your employees. So for us, our internal surveys, and also, of course, a Great Place to Work Trust Survey Index, really helps us in our directive and our goal setting for our employee experience. So what kind of engagement activities are we going to do? And like Oscar said, how do you do some of these things virtually? So last year, we actually asked the people, what kind of event do you want? It is not us telling you or thinking what you need, but what do you want us to do? And we got a suggestion from one of the employees, why don't we do, are you smarter than a sixth grader Pinoy style? And like a light bulb, this went up, and we implemented it. We did an event, are you smarter than the sixth grader? And it is so fun, you have these high technology brain people not being able to answer these sixth grade questions. And the fun, the engagement, the bonding that happens, even if it's virtually, this is so important. Hence, this month, we're going to have part two, are you smarter than a sixth grader? So it's really all about the experience, the engagement that you have. Find these creative ways, what you used to do in a physical way, can you do it now in a virtual way? One added that we did to this in June and July, we have our wellness month, our fitness month, to put it that way. How can you do this? Well, all our offices in Asia Pacific work together. We downloaded an app on our phone, which can track either, how many steps you make, how many kilometers you bike, or how many kilometers you run. And we made a competition, APAC wide, out of this. It is virtual, but in your own environment, you could go outside, you could do some activities, and this just engaged the people, not just locally, but even on a far bigger scale. So I would say again, the buzzword here is employee experience.
I like how you went back to your people and asked them, what their thoughts are, because oftentimes they do have the answer. They know what they need. It's just a matter of us leaders going back to them and, spending time listening, hearing what their ideas are. But, this only happens when there's psychological safety, another buzzword, right? When your employees feel safe that they can actually go to their CEO and tell them their ideas and not feel being shut off or intimidated, right? So, Sean, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I'd love to. In fact, I really read what Oscar and Ingo are talking about really resonates well, because it's highly connected to our earlier conversation on trust, right? Because at the end of the day, as leaders, we have to role model the level of trust that we want our companies to have as a culture. And listening to them, it might seem small, listening to them in terms of what engagement activities they want to have. But for some of them, it matters a lot, right? And for us, an organization, it should and always should matter a lot to us. And if I look at this one, it's quite similar to how we experience that, because in our own small organization that we have, we're less than 50 associates in the Philippines right now. We listened to them and we were surprised. When we started connecting with them, they called it out that, okay, they want to be more active. Working from home for more than a year is just unhealthy already. And they wanted to be more active. And it came from them that they wanted to do a pet advocacy program. It's something that we coined locally. And we said that, okay, we will push each other to be more active every day. And we define certain things that we need to do as an exercise daily, and even eating vegetables, a little bit more veggies and fruits every day. So we push each other out and we get points. Everyone who sends a picture on what they have done, it all gets collated manually at that. And there's a point system that is standard. And at the end of the year, as we went through it, all those points are converted into pet bowls. And these are food that we donate to shelters. And that's why it became a pet advocacy, because we wanted to become healthier, but the recipient really of everything that we do is ourselves in terms of our health, and also being able to live the purpose of making a better world for our pets. So we were able to give out massive number of bowls to our shelters in need. And it's something that we celebrate. We wanted to do it physically last December, but we saw that it's quite risky still. So we opted to do it virtually, and we celebrated with the shelter as they received the donations that we gave. But it all came out from listening to the associates. And it was a lot of work doing it manually, but the associates picked it up. They did it themselves, and more so, productivity is even better. So it's a matter of how you show your trust in terms of when you listen to them, do you actually adhere to it? Or do you start doubting them in terms of their productivity being compromised because of these activities? So role model is such an immense word, but I would say it's at the heart of everything we do, because without trust, our associates, our employees will not engage us. And sadly, for some, but I think it comes naturally, it really starts with a leader. It starts with what Oscar was saying earlier about Coke CEO making that effort to really talk and engage his associate. And it's something that might be easier for Mars to do because we're very small as a group, but it's something that as Mars, we also push every leader in our organization to do as well. And the ripple effect of that to our distributor partners, to even our retailers, is massive. And for us, it's our small part in this entire community, inspiring them to really connect and drive the trust, no matter if you're from a different company, a different industry at all. But it's all about being able to make that little difference of trusting someone else so that they trust others and they trust you back.
This is a very good conversation, very good discussion. And I like that, I think we're wrapping things around, trust, authentic leadership, importance of empathy, being out there, approachable, making yourself available to your people. I like how Ingo coined it, EDOR, and listening to your employees because they do have the answers for us as well. You do have your own consumer brand, and your organizations are known the brand that you bring out to the market. Why is it important for you to be Great Place to Work certified? What benefits have you experienced so far by having your organization be one of the Great Place to Work certified companies in the country? Oscar, do you want to share first?
Sure. First, I would like to share that things have changed, and I have the privilege to have experienced it. Because when I joined the workforce, and I'm probably going to reveal my age, but it was all about the brand, right? And I wanted to work for Coke because it's a big brand and known all over the world, and that was what moved me in the beginning. Things have changed dramatically. Now, when you talk about millennials, Gen Z, they're not behind the brand or after the brand. They really want to have a good employee experience. They really want to build strong connections with the people that they interact with. So it's not just because you're a big brand that you will be able to draw people. It really has to do with how they work on a day-to-day basis. What are the opportunities that they are receiving? What is the development that you're providing them? I couldn't agree more with Ingo and John in all these events and things, initiatives that you put in place for their well-being. So that has become so relevant. I would dare to say even more than the brand. The brand comes to a second term from that perspective. Of course, as a company, it's your brand what goes to the market. You rightly pointed it out. But to us, I think that the way that we bring people in is no longer the brand. It's what they can see. It's the culture, it's a word of mouth of people who already work here. So that's why it's so important for us to have been certified as a great place to work, because we conduct different activities in order to ensure that we're creating that environment for everyone to feel comfortable. But being able to be recognized by such an important organism and being able to share that with people, it's like an assurance that we're in the right path. Of course, filled with opportunities, as I believe everyone has, but at least the feedback that we have received through the survey, the information, the valuable information that we have gathered is also very relevant as we craft the plans of the future. And definitely, we're trying to build a better CCBPI for everyone, each and every one of the 10,000 employees. And the brand is very important to us again, but it's not what's bringing people in. It's not what gets people excited to work for this company. The leadership, believing in what we're doing, in our purpose, and having the right conditions and environment is far more important for the new generations.
That is so true. Yeah, it's not just about the consumer brand that you have now. It has a lot to do with the employee experience. And as we know, gone were those days wherein when I applied for a job, it's just a Manila Bulletin newspaper every Sunday. Now it's not like that. Even before you have that initial conversation with a job applicant, they already know you. They already know how it's like to be there in your company because of social media. It's either we promote your employer brand, you promote your employer brand, or a happy employee would do that. But the reverse is also true. An unhappy employee will also talk about their experience in social media. So thanks for sharing that, Oscar. How about you, Ingo? What has your experience been after being Great Place to Work certified?
Actually, I would even go a step before that. When I joined the company and every time we have a new hire onboarding, I actually take 30 minutes out of my day to really to hires, talk to them, get to know them. And one question I always ask is like, what made you select Genesis as a company? And in the beginning, when I started, the reply was like, well, I didn't know Genesis other than this bus company in Cubao. So imagine though, because that is what Genesis was all about. Now it has changed to every single person for the last 2.5, 3 months. When we asked them, so why Genesis? Well, because I read a lot of things on job streets. I read a lot of things in, Glassdoor. I see you have your own Facebook page, not just for Genesis overall, but for Genesis Philippines. You have a web stream page where some of your events you live stream to the audience to see what Genesis is all about. Oh, and by the way, I have a lot of friends working at Genesis who tell me what a great place it is to work there. So they want me to come as well. So seeing this change in just 1 year, from, hey, you're a bus company, right? So now people actually knowing not really maybe who you are as a company, but more what you stand for the culture that you have towards your people change. And now they even say, well, I see you have a great place to work certification already. So this means your workplace, your culture is trustworthy, is about empathy, is about listening to the people, is about doing the things for the people. And to see this just happening in 1 year is just mind-blowing. It's really as in off the charts how I look at this, as in how things change. And I think the trust index in itself, from Great Place to Work, we combine that with our own employee surveys that we have annually, because there's a different dimension to it. The internal survey is more about what are the specifics where you can do better or where you're doing good. Then you add to that the trust index, and now you have a very nice dashboard which gives you an almost complete overview of where do you stand as a company and where can you still improve and where do you need to keep going what you're doing. So from that perspective, that added dimension, the trust, and we have all agreed already here on today, trust is key. So having a trust index that goes together with that gives you now that kind of information that tells you, okay, these are the goals, these are the directions that we're going into, these will be the engagement activities, so that we keep on going where we are and keep improving ourselves and get better and better and better. Like I said before, it is no longer taking care of our customers, it is now really take care of your employees. You want to be successful, employees go first. And to Oscar's point, your brand, everything else, the marketing comes automatically after. So it's really a people-first approach. And thanks to Great Place to Work Certified, which we actually did in 8 countries simultaneously, and we're going this year for a global one. So I think we're really on the right path to get out there and give the message to the people. Yeah, like Coca-Cola, like Mars, these are the right kind of companies to work for.
Yeah, so companies would often thank us for recognizing them, but we always say that it is the voices of your people, who tell us that you are indeed a great place to work. It's, we do have the model, the methodology, but it is you as leaders being able to build that high trust workplace culture, listening to your people, everything that was shared during this conversation, showing empathy to them. That's what makes your organization a great place to work, which is validated by your people. How about you, John? How has it been for MarsPet?
We've always believed in engagement. And ever since I can remember, we've always subscribed to the Gallup Engagement Survey. And every year we take it very seriously. So it's such a big deal for us that in the Philippines, we talk about it at least every quarter. And we define clear action steps on what we need to do to become better as an organization. And that puts the associates at the center of the culture of the organization. And we've always been proud. And I think for the past 3 years, we've ramped up our engagement scores tremendously. And it's all because of the associates taking ownership on our own engagement. Right? So the leaders create the environment, creates the culture, but it is the associates that bring it alive. And for me, going to a great place to work, and I would say this is our first time, and it's probably we're the newest ones here in the group, but it has been already tremendously impactful for us. Because first, when our organization found out that, okay, we're going through this one, the team beamed up with pride. And I think it brings out that internal context that we are engaged, and bringing it out externally makes the organization even more proud that we are who we say we are. And that shows genuine engagement, genuine collaboration and trust in our organization. And seeing from Great Place to Work, being recognized by Great Place to Work as a certified, truly a Great Place to Work organization is a very strong external affirmation. And as Oscar mentioned, such a prestigious organization like Great Place to Work, calling it out to us is not going to be a surprise, but it's a feel-good moment. It's a really feel-good moment that we can speak to anyone around us that we are a great place to work. And I would say, going back to your example of looking at jobs in Manila Bulletin, gone are those days. That's so true. And I would say most of the new recruits that we have, the new hires that we have, are all recommendations from our existing associates. And I think that's the new thing nowadays. It's really our own teams recommending the company to their friends, to their families. And it shows how much they really stand up and live up to the culture that we have. And being certified by Great Place to Work makes it more impactful for them to share. It creates its own badge of honor to say that we are actually certified by Great Place to Work. So those things really add a lot of value. And I would say the second one for me in terms of the value addition is that it also helps us recruit the right talents for us. Because people, not all people who are looking for a job or where to start their career would start with Great Place to Work or even consider putting some weight on being a company being Great Place to Work certified. But those that would put weight on that are the right people, would have the right values that would align with us. And that for me is invaluable in itself. So for me, really grateful with the certification. And as you've said to me, it is the voice of our people, voice of our teams that really put it there. But also, we're very grateful that there's such a platform as Great Place to Work for our people to really voice that out.
John, and again, congratulations to all of you for being Great Place to Work certified. I do have one more question. We talk about how do companies and how do leaders look after their people. But really, as leaders, we go through a lot as well. It's not often that you get someone to ask you as a leader, how are you doing? And how do you look after your own well-being? As a leader yourself, and with all the responsibilities that you have, doing it right by your people, putting your people first, what is one key learning or advice for other leaders out there about looking after your own personal well-being as a leader?
In our Total Wellbeing campaign, we always advocate or we always communicate to everyone that it's okay not to be okay. And I think that's the first part, to recognize that you yourself cannot be at the top of your game every single day. And I think that we have created this culture where you speak up. If there's something wrong, you really speak up. If for some reason you do not feel comfortable to do it with your line manager, you can talk to HR, you can talk to the senior leaders, and we really encourage people to speak up. As part of the SLT, I think that we are blessed to have an amazing CEO. And if you're really feeling bad, we also feel as comfortable to speak up and say, hey, this is going on with me and how can you support me? And he's always willing to listen. And I know for a fact that the guy above him in Atlanta is also very open to listening to him. I don't know who takes care of the global chief executive officer, but at least the culture here is, please communicate. There's no possible way that we can help you. There's no possible way that we can get you to mental health initiatives or consultation if required, or any other item if you don't speak up. Again, it's okay to feel it's okay not to be okay, but it's important that you communicate with someone, and it can be whomever you choose. But the fact that you're really coming forward, sharing your feelings, and it might be a little bit difficult because sometimes it's on the personal side and we do not have all the answers. I'm not saying that in Coca-Cola we just can't solve the problems of everyone. That's not the reality, but we will listen to absolutely everyone. Sometimes the solution will be more effective than the other. Sometimes we cannot provide a solution because it's not part of our scope or it's not within our reach, but at least we will listen to people. And you would be surprised how important it is just to listen. Sometimes you don't even need to act. The fact that you're dedicating 30 minutes or 1 hour to have a meeting with someone, and I'm really honest in saying that we are very reachable. We have over 55 unions, and each union president has my mobile number. It might be a little challenging at times, but the truth is, if there's something wrong, they can just speak up and they can contact me, and I will try to reply to absolutely everyone. And the same goes for all the rest of the leaders. If you're in finance, you can shoot an email or send a text text to the CFO, and you will be listened to, and there will be a reply. Again, we won't have the solution to absolutely everyone's problems, but just the fact that you're listening, just the fact that you're caring, just the fact that you're probably taking some considerations in terms of working hours or some sort of accommodation to ensure that people are feeling okay, that goes a long way.
Yeah, if I were to build on that one, because it's very similar with Oscar, it's just, I think it's two-pronged. One is having the facilities in place, right? Because even I, as a leader, would have to avail of those facilities in place. And again, it's about being able to adapt to the situation. And I'm proud to say in Mars, we were able to navigate globally in terms of creating an associate assistance program. And this one, we recognize that mental health is going to be a bigger problem as we go through this one because people are separated and cooped up. So we said we approach it globally, and we recognize that us as leaders are not experts when it comes to dealing with mental health, and we need to respect that. So we have this entire program called AAP, where in any of our associates or even their family members can call and register in the app, call and make a call and get professional help. And it's free and it's open 24/7. And as a leader, I personally have tried it out and I speak about it with my organization. And my role and my objective is to break the stigma of reaching out for help, because it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength because you want to break free from it. And for me, no other way, I can't expect it from anyone else if I don't expect it from myself. So I did use that facility and I just went through it. So I understand what's available, what's out there, and I can speak with credibility with my organization. And since then, a lot more have really started getting into the program. And the stigma is slowly getting broken now. And it's okay not to be okay, as Oscar has mentioned. And we also created this very quite literally how are you sessions, wherein we really connect once a period and just ask each other, how are you? And as a group, we get to understand what's going on. And then we realize that, okay, if it's a bigger group, it becomes more difficult to open up. So we created more one-on-one sessions and we started engaging our leaders in the organization, our line managers, so that they're more equipped to check on the answers and how are you. And what we have come to really evolve with is that as the pandemic happened, our kapihan sessions went out. And we quickly started creating our virtual kapihan sessions. And we saw that it didn't work. So not being in front of each other was really too tough. And we started evolving that one into different things. But now it has evolved in such a way, it's a smaller group where they can work together and connect with each other. And I can join them in those small group conversation. And we don't talk about business. We just talk about how they are, how their families are, and genuinely express care and give advice to each other. So for me, that 1 hour period or a month is very much worth it because it helps connect and help you understand as well what's going on with your team, with your people. And probably the last for me is that it's actually putting your money where your mouth is. And one thing that I'm very proud of is that when we saw January was going crazy and everybody was not being okay, I as a leader really found it quite difficult to convey it to the region because it was only Philippines that was going through a surge at that time. But that was easily broken. Like, of course, they see the news and all that. But afterwards, we collectively made a decision that our team needs a mental health break. And I can say with pride that it just took us a day to get regional approvals for a deviation in policy to declare a holiday on the 31st of January. It seemed like just one day, but because we timed it so nicely, gave our teams a 4-day break just to disconnect, recharge, and manage things that we need to manage at home. And it has worked wonders because our team has been very vocal in telling us that it is a true testament of how the company cares. And for me, the way I see it, it's also a huge testament to my own leaders really going through that policy change very quickly and very flawlessly, no questions asked. They understand, they support. And how easy that became is a huge testament to how we take wellness, the well-being of our associates seriously. And my role in terms of taking care of my own well-being is to role model it and to make sure that it is consistently seen by my organization in the Philippines, no matter if it's virtual or physical. So for me, I participate in all the activities. The pet advocacy, I am not the most fit person. I don't eat a lot of healthy food at all. But this entire pet advocacy program got me to a better shape. And it for me shows that I am also committed on the same things that I asked them.
I think it goes back to the common theme that we have the whole day already. It's, we talk about trust, we talk about empathy. And when I look at empathy, it actually encompasses everything. You have to understand, you have to listen to your people. Things are more challenging now than ever before. We are all in a virtual environment that makes it even more difficult to find out what is really going on with your people. So one thing you really need to do is look within the organization. You have so many people managers. You have your line manager, you have their manager, and their manager, and their manager. You need to equip them as well to be able to spot when a person is not doing well. So on one hand, look in the Philippines, when we call mental wellness, everybody's like, shh, don't talk about this. It's a taboo. It's really still taboo in the Philippines, other countries around the world as well, but specifically here. So how can you break something like this? You as a leader, you go out there and you talk about the most taboo topic in the country, which is now, the mental well-being of your people. How can you tackle this? How do you address this? How do you go about it? How do you talk about it? And how to find out if your people are doing well or not? And then as an organization, what we did as a trial in 2020, and everything went virtually, we came up with, let's everybody give up. Every Friday in August, you're off. So you only work 4 days a week for the entire month in August. Every Friday you're off, paid by the company. This was a trial, all about well-being by the people. And now, because of its success, it is a permanent new employee benefit. Every Friday in the month of August, you're off for your well-being, have a longer weekend. So my message to all the other companies out there who didn't make this step yet is really empathy. You want the best from your people, and you can only do that when you give the best to the people. And this is all about trust, empathy, and be like a family. You can be like a barcada, either you're 50 people or 10,000 people. Your organization can really function as a barcada, and I think that is key, especially here in the Philippines. And in my organization, and I think Oscar might also have this as a big organization, you have people working in the Philippines whose manager is maybe not in the Philippines. No, their manager or line manager might be in Singapore or in Ireland or in any other place. So one thing you also have to make sure is that those people who are not physically here but have a group of people in the Philippines they manage, make them also understand how things are in the Philippines so that they also understand what do people go through. One example I give, we all know Philippines had one of the longest lockdowns in the world during the pandemic. And not just a lockdown, you had police and military checkpoints that if you go to a certain place, you don't have the papers in place, they send you back. Now, people who are not here don't understand this, but make them aware, and we had an APEC session where I was invited to talk about how are things in the Philippines. Make those managers aware how the situation here is in the Philippines compared to other countries where they don't have these hard lockdowns. Now these managers suddenly understand also what the people in the Philippines are going through and how much more, what I was saying, traumatic it can be for some of the people working from home or being locked down, because all you can do is work from home, but I cannot even go out to the park. I cannot even go to the mall. I have no outlet. That is mental drain on the people. So mental wellness is really, really, it should be at the highest level for a company when it comes to company and employee experience. That's where your focus should be. Again, the one word, empathy. That's how I would like to close with this.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Igo. Thanks, John and Oscar. It was a very good conversation. I enjoyed listening to your thoughts, and I'm sure that this would benefit a lot of listeners. So just want to thank you once again.